Hi friends, it's me, Catherine. Welcome to the next edition of Garden2Table TV. Today I'm going to show you how to plant the prickly pear cactus. It's an incredible plant. Every bit of this plant is edible. The pads, the leaves we call pads, when they're tender and young, every spring they send out new pads and they are so delicious to eat. We're going to show you how to eat them in another episode. They make a great salad, which you'll see on the menu of almost every Mexican restaurant you've gone to. It's called nopales salad. That's the Spanish word for prickly pear cactus pad. And the fruit is incredibly delicious and nutritious and full of nutrients. So it's an amazing plant to propagate, native to the Americas, North, South, and Central America. And it's been spread all over the world because it's so easy to propagate and just thrives almost everywhere. Of course, it loves well-drained soil and it loves sunshine, but it will grow almost everywhere. I'm on solid clay soil here with no drainage, and it still thrives. So take a chance and plant a prickly pear, and you're probably going to have a beautiful plant ornamentally in your garden if you don't water it too much. And if you're not in a very moist area, you can keep them small and just a beautiful 3 or 4 leaf plant for a very long time. Or like me, you can throw a little water on them and in 8 years get a hedge that's 10 to 12 feet tall, like I've done here, that provides my house privacy from the road and blocks the headlights coming around the corner. And anyway, it's just a wonderful plant, and I just love planting natives, so it's fantastic for that reason too. Anyway, super easy to propagate, the easiest plant you're ever going to propagate. They do it themselves. I'll show you some tips and tricks to make it happen faster, for them to grow more quickly, but in nature these pads just break off, and that's all you need to propagate them. So let's say a heavy bird lands on there, or a big branch gets too much weight on it, the whole thing's just going to snap off. They come off very easily, like so. And that's all you need to propagate the plant. I cut them off with a saw just because I don't want to scar my mother plant. I do love this being a beautiful decorative hedge, so I really don't want a bunch of big, torn off sections, and sometimes they don't come off that clean. But you can see how nicely that came off. So all you have to do to plant them is just stick this in the ground. That's it. It's going to be sending out roots from every section that touches the dirt. So in nature, of course, it's propagating all the time. It drops a leaf because of weight, or again, an animal disturbing it. And wherever the base of this, the flat part, hits the ground when it falls, it's going to send out roots. And it's meanwhile going to get all the nutrition it needs to send out those roots. Even if it doesn't see water in the desert for a year, it's going to get the nutrition out of this original leaf that fell down. This is going to turn into a skeleton as the nutrients are sucked down into the roots. It's amazing to watch. A great thing to show kids and have them come back and see these pads over time. Flip them over and you're going to see the roots coming down. It's really an amazing experience. But I plant them and then they just grow so much faster because they've already made that contact with the ground. One thing that's super important to keep in mind with a cactus is, of course, it does have spines on it. So I recommend using kind of a rubberized glove. And oftentimes I really suggest using gloves that you don't mind throwing away. So maybe gloves that are at the end of their lifetime. Don't use your favorite gloves. I've planted so many of these that I really know how to avoid the spines. But you do tend to get pricked a couple times. So I'll show you a little bit of a trick about that. The spines more towards the base of the leaf, and definitely on the older growth. If you want to take some of the older growth, there tend to be less spines. They've been knocked off by animals and by time, but I tend to always hold it by the base of the leaf. Up closer to the top, you're going to have more spines. And you can also pinch it between the spines. So everywhere you see one of these little dots, that's where the spines come out. Some of them you can see, and then some of them are just little hairy burrs on the prickly pear cactus. You don't think there are spines there, but they'll get in your fingers and they'll be annoying, and they don't feel good, and you'll have to take them out with tweezers. So try your best to avoid them. Try your best not to back yourself into your cactus, or you're going to get them all over your butt. Happened to me many times. For me, it's worth it because I just love this plant and love planting it. But you can be careful. You can pinch and carry the plant between the burrs. So right there, I'm not getting any spines in me. So if you work carefully and slowly and handle them carefully, you can do this whole process without getting stuck. it's propagated so easily that it's made its way all over the world. So wherever you're living, you probably have prickly pear cactus nearby. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy this little segment, please like it, share it, and comment. I'd be so ever grateful. And I'd love to know where you are and what you're planting, and if you've had success with the prickly pear, and if you eat the fruit, which is so delicious, and if you make salad out of the tender baby leaves, tell me what you're doing with it. Send me a recipe. We're all learning and growing here together, so remember to include us in your thoughts as well. And again, if you decide you want to have a big plant from scratch instead of planting single pads, you just take a larger section, and some of these are just going to fall off naturally because of the weight. So you always look first to see if your plant has leaves that have fallen off on their own, of course. But failing that, or if you don't have a lot of cactus to choose from, this mother plant could just plant thousands and thousands of hedges all over the world. There are so many leaves here. But if you come down to the base here and cut down here and plant this, about that deep in the soil, you're already going to have a living plant ready to go that looks like it's been there for some time. So just depending on where you make your cut, your plant is going to be that height. You'll just cut the plant off here if you want already a multi-branched beautiful cactus ready to be in your landscaping project. If you're going to make a hedgerow, and if you don't have a lot of plants, you can certainly do single pads and just be a little more patient, and they're going to start leafing out fast if you give them a touch of water. But again, you can go further down to the base of the plant and plant a 6-foot tall cactus already ready to go. The biggest trick is just to handle them slowly and carefully to avoid getting all these spines stuck in you. So here's the example of the tender shoots that come out in the spring. Now it's only March 2nd or 3rd here, but these are the tender shoots that start coming out in the spring that you turn into nopales salad. So again, the Spanish name for the prickly pear cactus is nopales. So this is a nopal leaf. And if you go to a Mexican restaurant, you will often see nopales salad on the menu. And that is these tender shoots. They strip the spines off of them and chop them and steam them and saute them with some tomatoes and onions and other yummy stuff, and that becomes a delicious salad. So these are going to grow a little bit bigger before they're harvested, but these are the cactus pads that are at the stage that they are so tender and delicious and edible. They can also be eaten raw. They're not as popular eaten raw, but I enjoy eating them raw. They're so nutritious and healthy. We'll show you how to do that in another episode. But let me show you also another example of where the fruit is coming out. So this will be a mass of blooms, multicolored blooms, and then those will turn into beautiful orange and red fruits very soon. Here's an example of the fruit bud. So it looks a little different than the pad bud. It's circular rather than slightly flat, but this is going to be a beautiful fruit that we're going to eat. And we've already done an episode on that, and we'll do many more. But look at these pads just starting to come out. So there's a pad, and there's the fruit, and a fruit. So you see there's just a slightly different shape. Even when they're little, you can tell these are going to be fruits. And well, I'm not yet sure about those, but you can see the circular. So, and look down here. Now these are at the perfect stage to actually eat. You see the size of these? So to make prickly pear salad, or nopales salad in Spanish, we would just be snapping these little tender shoots off. We'd be skimming them with a knife, skimming off the little spines, which right now are tender and not too spiny. And then we'd be ribboning them up, slicing them with a knife, and I'm going to show you how to do all that. But anyway, shortly, all my friends that are Mexicans are going to be coming over here and begging me for these tender shoots. It's only one time of year that they put them out, and they're so delicious and so popular in Mexican cuisine. Anyway, that's another wonderful attribute of this plant. Every bit of it's edible, which is just so incredible, isn't it? That's how easy it is. They just stick in the ground. They're not going to go anywhere. They're pretty wind resistant, and they're just going to send down roots everywhere they're touching the dirt. So again, that's why I think digging them in has been so effective for me, even though everybody tells, all of my fellow gardeners, all of my friends that are Mexicans here that work the other properties, everybody says, oh, Catherine, when they first saw me building my big hedge that's now so huge, they're like, no, you need to let them shrivel up. You need to let them die first before you stick them on the ground. And that was supposed to make some magic thing happen, but I just found I could take them all fresh, stick them in the ground, and they grew so fast. Yeah, so there you go. In a couple years, that's going to be a big hedge, a windbreak, whatever it is you're looking for, or just don't water at all, and they'll just grow very slowly and be small and pretty ornamental plants in your garden or your front yard, or wherever it is that you need a privacy hedge or a windbreak, or just a beautiful place for nesting birds. And yeah, so fabulous plant. I highly recommend it, and would love to hear where you're planting them. Send me pictures. Yeah, put stuff in the comments and what you do differently. I would love to hear from you. This is the most common kind of the edible prickly pear cactus, but there are many different varieties. Anyway, that's how easy it is, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please like it, share it, comment so that I know where you are watching from, and if you learned something, I'd love to hear about it. I really appreciate your feedback, and it would make me great to stay connected with everybody and know what you're up to and what you recommend differently. This is a learning and growing experience, so let's all share in the comments and figure out the best way to do things in different regions, and I would so appreciate your input.